Welcome to Teaching Truth. In his excellent book, Everyday Supernatural, written with Andy Croft, Mike Pilivacci, who for many years fronted Soul Survivor, writes these words with regards to obedience. About 4 years ago, I sensed God challenging me to step out of my comfort zone and to choose to obey him when I didn't completely understand what he was telling me to do. On one occasion at our Momentum event for 20s and 30s, I felt God speak to me during the worship. I was shocked at what came into my head. There is someone here who is having an affair with a pastor in their church. Everything in me recoiled at that word. There is no way I'm saying that, I said to myself. It goes against all our rules. It's a negative word. And anyway, how am I supposed to invite that person to come forward in front of 6,000 people? My responsibility, however, was to be obedient in giving the word, but also to work out how to do it in a way that was pastorally sensitive. I gave the message and then said, if that's you, please come and see my friend Ali at any time during the meeting or go to one of our counsellors tomorrow. We would love to pray for you that God would heal you and set you free. At the end of the meeting, a young lady came up to Ali in floods of tears. She said she had been having an affair with the youth pastor in her church who was married with 3 children. And she didn't know how to stop. As she was driving to Momentum, she said to God, I'm so ashamed to tell anyone about this, Lord. If you want this relationship to end, you're going to have to tell someone on the stage about it because I can't tell anyone. Members of the team prayed for her and she repented and stopped the relationship and went through a process of healing and restoration. When I heard about this, writes Mike, I was astounded. I came within an inch of not saying anything. If I had kept my mouth shut, she would have missed the blessing. On the other hand, if I had made a mistake and no one had responded to that word, nobody would have died. How kind is God? I saw him at work, but it only happened as I got out of the boat in obedience, began to sink, cried out, Lord help me, and had the joy of walking on the water, holding his hand. Discerning the call and following through on the call involves obedience. It's one thing to hear a call. It's one thing to listen to a call. It's one thing to discern a call. It's quite a different thing altogether to obey that call. You see, you can listen to the call, you can discern the call, you can explore the call when you're, as it were, sitting in the boat. But in terms of obeying the call, you have to spiritually step out of the boat. When Peter heard the call to walk on the water, he had a choice to make at that point when Jesus said, come, walk on the water. Was he going to obey that call of Jesus or say, no, I've changed my mind, I'm just going to stay in the boat? Or was he actually going to step out and go for it? And well, we know what happened. Peter obeyed the call, and that obedience was seen in his actions. The old adage is true, actions speak louder than words, and actions reveal our obedience. You see, the Lord is more pleased with obedience than with sacrifice. And Jesus may well be calling any of us today to be obedient to him by taking that step, by taking that first step of commitment to become a Christian, or to take that step of obedience to be baptized, or to take that step of obedience in response to what he has been calling us to do and to get involved in. Whatever it may be, the call will only become alive, as it were, when we respond in obedience to that call, as Peter did. Peter was obedient. He got out of the boat physically and walked on the water towards Jesus. He was obedient in response to the call that came. And the challenge is quite simple in many respects for us today. Not easy, challenging, difficult, but taking that first step is a first step of obedience, and that's what Peter did. God's word says, "They who honour me, I also will honour." When we take that first step out of the boat in honouring God, in responding to his call, in being obedient, remember the Lord is more pleased with obedience than with sacrifice, and therefore we honour him if we're obedient. They who honour me, I also will honour. God will not let us down. Jesus did not let Peter down physically nor spiritually. He grabbed him by the hand. He honoured him, as it were, for stepping out in obedience to his call. And God will honour us when we step out in obedience to the call that he is making, as it were, across the waves. About 20 years ago, I had to respond to a call and to discern the call, to explore a call, and ultimately to become obedient to that call. It was a call to leave Ayr, not Ayr of the Chaldees in the Old Testament, but a call to leave, to move on from Ayr Baptist Church, a church which had become a very significant place of learning and growth and development for me under a very fine pastor, Noel McCullens, who remains a great counsellor and friend to this day. But I had to ultimately take that step of stepping out of the Ayr Baptist Church boat and move, as it were, to the boat that was Southside Christian Fellowship. And that was a process of me of about 8 or 9 months of just feeling unsettled, of exploring, of ultimately then stepping out. I took that step of obedience. And once I'd taken that step, I had a peace in my mind and in my heart. Do you know this? That within 1 month of my going to Southside Christian Fellowship, within 1 month, God brought into my life a girl, a woman, Adrienne, who would become and has become my wife and lifelong partner. Now, call that coincidence, call it what you will, but I believe that was God incidence. And I believe in a sense that was the blessing that because I had honoured God and stepped out of that boat, difficult though it was, humanly and practically, it wasn't easy. Nonetheless, because that step was taken of obedience, I believe that God honoured me in blessing me with Adrienne. They who honour me, I also will honour. Discerning the call involves obedience. It's one thing to hear a call, to explore a call. It's quite another thing to be obedient to that call. May God grant to each one of us today the humility, the grace, the openness and the willingness, difficult though it may be humanly and practically, but may God grant us the ability to be obedient to that call, secure in the knowledge that when we honour God, he will always honour us.